Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Chemistry Daily Booster. This is number 6 in our Paper 2 series, and it is listed on the advanced information for both foundation and higher tier chemistry, because we're going to be looking at more of those practicals today. What we looked at in the previous Daily Booster was that we were having a look at the cation test, so the positive ions, the ones that would be attracted to a cathode if we're talking electrolysis. What we're going to be doing in today's little booster is having a look at the anion tests. Now, anions are negative ions, and so what we're going to have a look at are a range of different tests that we can do to identify some of these negative ions that may be present. The first test we need to know about then is the test for sulfate ions. So sulfate ions, SO42-. In order to test for sulfate ions, what you do is add a few drops of hydrochloric acid, and then we add some barium chloride, just a few drops again. If we get a white precipitate forming, then sulfate ions are present. No white precipitate, no sulfate ions. And you can see what it looks like in the little picture on the left there. So what we're really seeing is our barium ions, Ba2+, are going to join with the sulfate ions to make barium sulfate. So first thing, add some hydrochloric acid, then a few drops of barium chloride. White precipitate tells us there's a sulfate ion present. The second test is testing for the carbonate ions, CO32- ions. We're going to add a few drops of hydrochloric acid, and if we get bubbles being formed as we add the hydrochloric acid, then carbonate ions are present. So very simple test. Hydrochloric acid makes bubbles if the carbonate ions are present. The third and final test we need to know is our test for the halide ions. Now remember, halide ions are of the halogens, which are just in group 7 of the periodic table. So what we're looking at here then is just testing for 3 of the halogens. What we're going to do then, we add a few drops of the dilute nitric acid first of all, just to remove any other ions that may be present. We then add a few drops of silver nitrate solution, and the colour of the precipitate we make tells us which halide is present. So if it's a white precipitate, then we make chloride. Cream precipitate would be the bromide, and a yellow precipitate would be the iodide. So you need to remember those 3 colours and what they correspond to. Let's have a look at the style of questions they've asked around these anion cation tests in the past. So what I've got first of all, this is from a foundation paper. So this is a foundation question, and it was a 6-marker. So Jed is testing potassium chloride and some unknown compounds. He does some tests. These are the tests that Jed does on solutions of the compounds. Flame test, adding sodium hydroxide solution, adding silver nitrate solution. Look at his results. There's a lovely table for us. Then potassium chloride reacts with silver nitrate to make silver chloride and potassium nitrate. Write a word equation for this reaction. Identify the unknown compounds A and B and explain your answers. First thing when it comes to this 6-marker then is we need to make sure we do all the parts of the question. We've got to write a word equation for the reaction they've outlined. We need to identify A and B and explain the answer there. So we need to do all those little parts to get the maximum 6 marks. I'd suggest start with the word equation, because it's using this little bit here. So it tells us potassium chloride reacts with silver nitrate. So word equation, remember, we are writing the words. So I'm going to just try and squeeze this in alongside. So if we're doing this, we would do potassium chloride, and it tells us reacts with, so replace that with a plus, silver nitrate. To make, replace with an arrow, and we're going to make silver chloride, and if I put the plus in, potassium nitrate. So that's the word equation, and you can actually tick it off as you do it, okay? Because remember, you can highlight, underline, circle bits in the question absolutely fine. Tick them off as you go, just so that you know you've done it, because it's so easy to forget to do part of a 6 marker. Next, we've got to identify the unknown compounds A and B and explain the answers that we've got there. Well, let's have a look at compound A first of all. The flame test colour is yellow. So in terms of compound A, we can say A is, and if it's a yellow flame test colour, that's going to be sodium. So we can start by writing sodium. Now, we don't have a reaction with sodium hydroxide solution, so that's no use to us. But silver nitrate makes a white solid. So silver nitrate is how we test the different halide ions, and the white solid tells us it's a chloride. So A is sodium chloride. So we've identified compound A. We now need to explain our answer. So sodium gives a yellow flame test, and chlorine makes a white precipitate with silver nitrate. So that's our first bit. We've identified A, we've explained A. Now we've got to do the same for B. So B is, so no colour with our flame test, so clearly that's not going to help us. But when we add sodium hydroxide, we make a green solid. Hopefully we remember that a green solid is iron 2. So it's going to be iron 2, and we make a cream solid with silver nitrate. So remember, that's testing for our halide ions, and if it's cream, it's bromide. So we can say that B is iron bromide. So then we just need to explain it, because we've identified. Now we've got to explain. So iron 2 due to the green precipitate. We're going to abbreviate that to PPT. So precipitate with sodium hydroxide, and then we know that it's going to be bromide, so bromide due to cream precipitate with silver nitrate. And that's it. There's your 6 marks. So we've explained the answer, tick, identified A, identified B, written the word equation, and that is top marks on that question. Here's the higher version then. So this was the same year, this was the higher tier question. So Jed is testing iron 3 chloride and some unknown compounds, does some tests. He's going to add sodium hydroxide and silver nitrate solution. There's the results. Iron 3 chloride, and that's meant to be an L, sorry I've lost it. So FeCl3 reacts with silver nitrate, AgNO3 to make silver chloride, AgCl, and iron 3 nitrate, FeNO33. Write a balanced symbol equation for the reaction. Then we've got to identify A and B and explain the answers again. Very similar to the foundation, except you're actually using a balanced symbol equation. So let's start off with that. Here, they've given us all the formulas that we need, first of all. So let's start off with our FeCl3. That's going to react with silver nitrate, AgNO3, and we're going to make silver chloride, AgCl, and iron 3 nitrate, which is FeNO3. So that is just the symbol equation. Is it balanced yet? Well, I'd suggest start off with the nitrate ion. We've got 3 nitrate ions on the right, 1 on the left. So start by putting your 3 in there. So we now have 3 nitrate ions on the left, 3 nitrate ions on the right, fine. But we've got 3 silvers on the left, so we need to add a 3 in front of our silver on the right. Gives us 3 chloride as well, and what do you know, 3 chloride. balanced. So first bit, job done. We now need to identify unknown compounds A and B and explain our answers. So let's look at A first of all. Sodium hydroxide makes a blue solid. So we can say A is going to be copper 2, and then we're making a white solid with silver nitrate, chloride. So the reason then, got to explain this. Blue solid with sodium hydroxide is our copper 2 ions. White solid with silver nitrate is chloride ions. We've explained. So we've identified A, we've explained A. Now let's do the same with B. So B, we make a green solid in this case. So a green solid is going to be iron 2 and cream bromide. So we've identified it, tick, now we explain it. So iron 2 due to green precipitate with our sodium hydroxide, and then bromide due to the cream precipitate with silver nitrate. Explained, done. That's it. What we've done there is answer the 2 6-mark questions, maximum 6 marks. Do notice, we're not having to write vast quantities. They will give you good 10+ lines to do this on. Chances are you're not going to need to fill them. So don't worry if you don't fill those lines. Don't feel like you just need to keep writing, because science is about getting the right facts in the right place. You don't need to waffle. So please don't waffle. Stick with the facts. If you can sum it up in 4 lines, brilliant. You can still get maximum marks by doing that, as we can see here. Hopefully you found that useful. Obviously, do remember, if there's bits you want to delve into in a bit more detail, have a look at the C4 playlist on the main channel. There are also your revision guides, I would hope, and your actual classwork books that you can look back and just revisit those practicals. Make sure you really know them thoroughly. Learn those colours without a shadow of a doubt, and do just take the time just to review how to answer those questions yourself. There's plenty on the old exam papers that you can look at on the OCR website. Then of course don't forget to join us tomorrow for our next daily booster.